Guys, I am sick of Bethesda Game Studios. I am sick of the excuses. I am sick of the curtailing of responsibility. I am sick of the lack of respect for the consumer. You haven't made a good game in 13 years. It's been 13 years since you made Skyrim, and even Skyrim is debatable in the gaming community. You haven't made a good game in 13 years, and then you blame the consumer, say that we don't know about game design, we don't know what we're talking about, we should enjoy Starfield for what it is, as a walking in space with nothing to do simulator. How disrespectful toward your consumer, toward your buyer, toward your loyal community, your fan base. What a damn joke. What a joke this company has become to be. Fell off a cliff a decade ago, hasn't rebounded. Joke of a company right now. God. People just want to play good games. People just want to play games that are thrilling, that are visceral, that are thought provoking in the gamer's mind. People just want to have some sort of thought process or emotional stake whenever they're playing a game. They want to feel the story, they want to feel the characters. Bethesda right now is caught in this vicious loop where they are constantly telling themselves, after the Skyrimification process of their games that they've started for the last decade, they're dumbing down their games. And this has been going on for a decade, like I said. What Bethesda tells themselves is, well, guys, we don't really need to create an amazing and well thought out game so long as people believe we are going to put out a well thought out game. And we can use marketing to get Todd Howard to sell people on our shitty product. And we can use different dirty tactics to sell to a consumer that still believes in us with goodwill. That's bullshit, Bethesda, complete bullshit. And it's this vicious cycle that Bethesda is falling into, where the commercialism aspect, the money saving aspect, the easiness aspect of their game creation is just overshadowing the potential that they have to create an amazing open world simulator, the ones that we're used to, like Fallout 3, like Oblivion, like Morrowind. They've already done it before, and that's the crazy part. They already know how to get back to where they started. They choose not to. It's not about 16 times the detail, and it's not about the 1,000 computer generated worlds that Bethesda can create. It's always been about the genuine atmosphere, about the character interactions, about the world building, and about the feelings that a gamer can experience, making a plethora of RPG choices in the Bethesda game that we know we can play because the classics have shown us that they can do it. That's always been the real human factor behind it, Bethesda, and that's what people fell in love with regarding your games, and it's gone now. Bethesda used to be a pioneer of world building, and they used to be a pioneer of game design. Many of us consider Bethesda the quintessential creator of open world games. They had a cape on their shoulders, guys. We looked up to them a lot. They were the best to do it. All of us have 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 Bethesda games that we ultimately consider very great and very special in our hearts. We have fond childhood memories of a lot of Bethesda games. Bethesda established wondrous environments. They created a lot of role-playing adventure situations. We had a lot of different ways to play a character in their universes. It was always interesting. Bethesda even had some horror elements and different enticing ways to keep a player on their toes while they were exploring the environment. Think of the Dunwich building in Fallout 3. This was how Bethesda kept us very invested in their games. We didn't know what we would find. It was a true adventure sandbox. This was the big ball of the Bethesda experience. And we could expect this in all of their releases, guys. Bethesda gave us thousands of hours of replay value. Thousands of hours of replay value. Their games were very differentiated. They were complex. You can roleplay your characters, and there was a lot to do. I'm sure that you guys remember eliminating your Dark Brotherhood co-members one by one in Oblivion, getting contacted by Lucien Lachance with his dark and mysterious voice so that just so deeply penetrated your ears. It was great. No homo. Remember that Fallout 3 quest, right? Where that good old fashioned American family community secretly we discover hides, cannibalistic remains in their cellar once you go down there. What a jolt. What a surprise that was to see that in just one of their little side quests. Or that, rat problem in Skyrim that led to discovery of an invasion plan from this super powerful and crazed wizard hiding out in the cellar of a alcohol creation, hiding out in a cellar of some sort of business in Skyrim. Oblivion and Morrowind were all full of surprises at every turn. That's what made the world so magical. We still have memes about it to this day. Remember Moira in Fallout 3 giving us the apocalypse survival journal. And, you can detonate Megaton, and right after, you can see her walking around the remains, ghoulified like a zombie, still talking to us. But that showed us the immediate reactions to the decisions that we were making in a Bethesda open world game. An immediate reaction to a role playing decision that we made, and Bethesda allowed us to do that. They allowed us to be the creator of our experience. I can remember how terrified I was seeing a centaur in Fallout 3 slowly crawling my way, scaring the living shit out of me once I saw it and shot it. It was such an abomination. I didn't know what the hell that thing was. It had made your skin crawl. And that's some of the best memories that I ever have from a Bethesda game. They really paid attention to detail and they put in effort. And that's what mattered back then because we saw the quality of their work every time they released a game. Overall, Bethesda handcrafted situations filled with conflict and with tension. And Bethesda allowed us to uncover forgotten secrets, or they allowed us to chase riches. They allowed us to discover horrific scenes in their games. And that was something that we could expect in all of their releases, guys. But since then, it has changed. And I am forced to ask the question, when did Bethesda become so averse to creating these rich worlds with all of the situational conflict and tension and deep lore and amazing characters? We were so used to them and we were so spoiled, and we didn't recognize that it would be gone eventually. When did Bethesda become so safe and lazy and overall relaxed with the creation of their games? Bethesda is safe and they're boring, and they make their games perfectly stamped for mass consumption nowadays. It's so obvious. There are no consequences for your actions, guys. You can shoot all of the NPCs in Starfield how much ever you want to. Nothing is going to happen. There's no consequences. Bethesda couldn't even be bothered to code a reaction to that. There's so much reduction of what they used to put in their games. And that's part of the Skyrimification process that they've walked down so deeply these last few years. Their games were open and it was visible and real how real it was their games were open and it was visible and real that we would have consequences for our actions. You went through the RPG elements of a Bethesda game, and now Bethesda gives broken releases. Now they give empty worlds, they give boring worlds. And if we want to talk about what Bethesda has done lately in that can of worm if we want to talk about what Bethesda has done lately, if we open that can of worms, guys, it's abundantly clear that Bethesda is phoning in their performance. And Bethesda is this gigantic and well-fed. They're this creature resting on the laurels of bones that they once hunted down, that they once devoured voraciously in their Bethesda cave. And this was from an all too forgotten past. And Bethesda is no longer that hungry creature. They are sitting on their ass and they are plump and sitting lazily in a gold plated chair away in their cave. And they're living from their reputation from a long time ago. So they're sitting in this chair, rubbing in our faces how great they are, how much they know, and how wrong their consumer is, how wrong we are about our opinions, and how Bethesda's perfect and infallible, right? How could we doubt the greatness of Bethesda? How dare we, is what they would say to us. They can do no wrong. This was, this used to be the company that opened Fallout 3 with a nearby elementary school. Great visual storytelling. The raiders had, mercilessly attacked the children in this school. We could even see little tiny skeleton corpses being caged at towards the ceiling. We could see that. And this was the visual storytelling that used to make Bethesda Bethesda. We used to be able to appreciate their attention to detail. And this is just one example of visual storytelling off the top of my head from Fallout 3. And, if we reflect on Fallout 76, and if we can reflect on Starfield, two negatively or mixed review games at the very best, we can say that they are soulless and that they are devoid of any attention to detail, guys. They are boring. And, Bethesda says, well, at least you can fly through our golden hoop farts so that you can learn a new magical space shout and just ignore that we're recycling mechanics from Skyrim. Just ignore that. Just worship us for everything that we put in our games, regardless of the quality. In Fallout 76, you can hop in a buggy server with two people and you can experience Bethesda's very lazy attempt on an immersive multiplayer experience, whatever they want to call it. It's just so effortless and it's just so dull, and their games are just not the same. It's clear that Bethesda does not care about character interaction. It's clear that Bethesda does not care about character interaction. They don't care about world building. Starfield can even be bothered to explore its lore, especially when compared to a space adventure franchise like Mass Effect. I've poured hundreds of hours into Mass Effect. And Mass Effect was a franchise that literally placed the exploration of its lore at the very forefront of its game, guys. That's what made Mass Effect such a formidable franchise. The amounts of lore and the amounts of deep character interactions that we had in Mass Effect were truly impressive. Starfield had ample potential to recreate an interesting set of characters from all reaches of a galaxy. The opportunity was there for the taking, guys. They had a canvas set up, a blank canvas where they could have done whatever the hell they wanted to with Starfield. And I'm sure they had some decent ideas on the table, but they didn't do jack shit with them, guys. That's the crazy part. They could have easily surpassed the magic element of Mass Effect and what made those games so great. When we think of how interesting it was just to speak with Garrus or Liara or Rex or Tally, whoever our cup of tea was in that game. It was so memorable. The conversations were so memorable. The world building was excellent. Playing through those 3 games, guys, it was just much better than Starfield, and that's objectively true. And Bethesda used to sit at a fireplace with us, classic Bethesda. They used to walk us through their game and sit next to us at the nice little fireplace that they had created, right? And they'd make s'mores with us and give us their good old fashioned games that really hit us in our hearts and in our minds. And Bethesda was creative and they used to care. And Bethesda had a flame that was very strong. And we all noticed this. It was apparent that they cared about their games back then. And now Bethesda is a mockery of themselves. Into their house, they have brought a cheap AC unit, right? Instead of the fireplace that they used to have, the AC unit is rusted. And we can call this AC unit maybe the creation engine that's outdated and needs to be replaced, most likely, giving us, radiant questing and procedural generation in order to give us an attempt at the fire they used to have. And it's just not doing the same trick. This is a poor attempt for Bethesda to heat up the hearth of their home, which is now empty and destitute. And there's not much going on, and fans are starting to catch on. What the hell happened, Todd? First thing on my mind. What the hell happened, Todd? I'll say it again. And I can't say that procedural generation is the biggest issue here because that's not true, okay? Bethesda is just not investing the same amount of heart and talent that they used to put into their games. Bethesda is not driven. They are not hungry. They are no longer the new kid on the block that desperately wanted to prove themselves at one point. It's just not them anymore, guys. We have to come to accept this as a community. They're on a downhill spiral, and it's dangerous, the direction that their trajectory is headed as a company, because we have seen too many worrisome events coming from Bethesda, guys. And let me say this, on a broader scale, Bethesda is only part of a larger phenomenon that is plaguing the entertainment industry as a whole. Guys, if you've seen Black Mirror, if you've seen Star Wars, if you've seen The Witcher, if you've seen the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all of these forms of entertainment are so safe and dumbed down, and they ultimately become a husk of themselves, the same way that Bethesda is doing to themselves right now at this very moment. There's no risk, there's no emotion, there's no imaginative ideas in these forms of entertainment anymore. There's no risk, there's no emotion, there's no imaginative ideas in these forms of entertainment anymore, in these specific shows and movies. There's nothing raw or uncomfortable for a viewer to sit with anymore in the entertainment industry. Everybody wants to play it safe. And I think that this is the same trajectory that Bethesda is going on. And with Black Mirror, guys, if you've seen that on Netflix, this was a show about how dystopian things could become when technology guys, this was a show about how dystopian the world could become when technology and human nature are intertwined in this terrible manner. how harmful those effects could be on a societal level. And Star Wars, which we're all familiar with, used to be about this ancient battle between good and evil. How could Luke Skywalker resist the intense temptation of his father, Darth Vader, when, you know, so much is at stake in the Star Wars universe during the story? And now it's like, well, regardless of the great narratives that we've told before, let's just walk down the social inclusion route so that everybody's happy and merry. And we need to have everybody politically correct. Our stories need to be politically correct and dull, and the stories are phoned in and they're half-assed, and as an audience a lot of us see it. But whatever, I spent $20 to come to this movie theater and buy whatever the hell garbage Marvel is pumping out at the moment. So I might as well get my money's worth, right? Is what the audience is saying nowadays. It's just all so played out. It's all so derivative. At what point did companies decide to phone it in rather than create an authentic experience with inventive stories that leave a mark on us, that hold our attention, that have real world application behind them, and that have stories and experiences that leave an indelible mark on us? You have to risk uncomfortability when you're making any form of entertainment. And when you're making a video game too, guys, that's in the same vein. And that's just how it is. Even in terms of game mechanics, you can't have something so simple and vanilla as Starfield, Bethesda. You have to do a little bit more with your vision. But Starfield is an amalgamation of a bunch of different planets that are separated by loading screens. And we can say that this is completely immersion breaking. This was the game creator that had a gigantic map that you could walk across, and it would take you hours to do it, but it was possible to do it, and that's what mattered. Why would Bethesda sacrifice part of this precious game mechanic where you can walk from one edge of the world to the other? It's mind-boggling to me, to make that decision. And Bethesda should be embarrassed that in online Steam forums lately, they are sort of curling up into a ball and defending themselves. They're lashing out and they're lashing out at the consumer like an angry 10-year-old, and defending every single one of their shitty actions that they make whenever they receive a heap of criticism, rightfully so, from the community. And it's just pitiful, Bethesda. You gotta do better. You have to do better. And with Elder Scrolls 6 coming around the corner, what a company-defining moment that is approaching us, whether or not Bethesda sees this or recognizes the situation. This is the game, Elder Scrolls 6, that will make or break Bethesda as a company. And Bethesda, you are going to fall into memory, or you are going to remain relevant, your entire company, with the release of Elder Scrolls 6. Company defining moments, guys. All we can hope is that Bethesda reflects on their journey, and they reflect on how the hell they got here, and that they reflect on the amount of goodwill and loyalty from their fan base, how loyal their modders are, and how loyal the Bethesda community is. The Bethesda community is an actual foundational aspect of Bethesda as a whole. So Bethesda, you better recognize how lucky you are to have this community backing you up at every turn, and even giving excuses for your many shortcomings sometimes. The amount of defending that Fanboys does on your behalf, Bethesda, is shocking, and it's embarrassing, because you need to do better. Bethesda, what you can do is recapture some of that old lightning in a bottle that you once had. It used to be there. Go back to the damn drawing board, Bethesda, and figure out the direction that things need to go because you've been there, you've done that, and you can do it again. Okay? Guys, thank you for listening. Until next time.